Hello, Commissioner Chen, can we test your audio, please? Yes, thank you. Can we test your audio, please, Commissioner Nonaka?
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Okay, can we test your audio, Commissioner Ono?
Testing.
Got it, thank you.
Okay.
Can we test your audio, Commissioner Rathbun?
Test 1, 2, 3.
Got it, thank you. Okay, Chair, we can begin now.
Okay, thank you. I hereby call this meeting of the Reapportionment Commission to order. It is 1 p.m. on January 28th, 2022. This meeting is being conducted by video conference and telephone. I would like to remind the commissioners to keep their cameras on for the duration of the meeting. Will the secretary please take the roll?
Chair Muguishi,
Present.
Commissioner Chipchase, excused. Commissioner Chun,
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Here.
Commissioner Nakota,
Here.
Commissioner Nishimura, excused. Commissioner Nonaka,
Present.
Commissioner Ono,
Here.
Commissioner Rathbun.
Present.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioners, pursuant to Act 220, Session Laws of 2021, you are required to disclose if anyone is present with you at this meeting. Commissioners, is anyone present with you for this meeting?
Not currently, but my husband just left. He might be in and out, but not here now.
Anybody else? Again, I will disclose as per usual. I have my Assistant Vice President of Government and External Relations, Matthew Sasaki, here in the room with me. Thank you. Additionally, pursuant to Act 220, we will be meeting remotely using interactive conference technology. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the Office of Elections website at elections.hawaii.gov shortly after the conclusion of the meeting. As a reminder to the public, your microphone will be muted until you are called upon. We will now move on to public testimony. A list of testifiers who have submitted their name before the meeting has been added to the chat. As technical issues may arise, we will give each testifier a few moments to try and resolve any connection issues. However, if the issues cannot be resolved, we will have to move on to the next testifier. If you would like to testify, please click raise hand under reactions on Zoom. If you are joining us by phone, please press *9. When recognized, please unmute your microphone before speaking. You may also turn on your video at this time. For the record, please state your first and last name and the items you will be testifying on. For those testifiers who are joining by phone, we will not have your name and will be identifying you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. To ensure that we will have sufficient time to hear all testimony, each testifier will have 3 minutes to testify. Once your name has expired, you will be asked to conclude your remarks. During public testimony, the commissioners will also be muted, but may unmute themselves to ask any questions. Will the secretary please announce the first testifier?
First testifier is Kimiona Kane, followed by Michael Konowitz.
Mahalo nui, Scott. Thank you so much. Audio okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Aloha nui kako, o Kimiona Keia, no Waimanalo Mayao. I'm Kimiona Kane from Waimanalo, Oahu. I'm here to speak as the Waimanalo Neighborhood Board Chair in opposition of the Senate District 25, which encompasses Kailua, Waimanalo, and Hawaii Kai currently. Still, our neighborhood board is in opposition to the current plans being proposed in this regard to the Senate District 25, as we feel it does not best represent our community. We want to acknowledge the work done by the committee in providing the adjustments to the Makapu'u Point boundary, which has been the boundary that we've acknowledged for many, many years. And so in terms of House District 51, we want to acknowledge that that change is appreciated by the commission. In addition to that, Chair, I feel like this might be our last opportunity to share. And so I'm going to take the time to acknowledge some of the things I think we can better in the future. One of the biggest things I learned in this process was that there's a large group of public that is still unaware of what's going on in redistricting, and I think we have to reach them in the future. Those of us that have come out every single meeting, as well as the commissioners, as well as the staff, thank you guys so much for your efforts and your constructive feedback as we work on this process. To acknowledge that we want to make sure that everyone is best represented. I'm struggling to understand the information provided by the commission, which has been very lacking in terms of providing justifications to several decisions. It seems very doable, not only practical, but doable, as several community members have been able to do so, to provide 2 House districts in accordance to the Constitution into a Senate district and so forth. And so I find it very discouraging that we haven't gotten to that point. Now, I recognize Commissioner Nonako's feedback that we can't please everybody, and I acknowledge that. At the same time, it's important that we honor the fact that many people showed up here, and to have influences outside of the meeting that may or may not be influencing decisions, it really breaks the trust in the public in this process, and it's not something that I think we'd want to continue moving forward. So I anticipate there are going to be challenges to this plan if it should be voted on today and passed, as it doesn't serve several communities, including still in Oahu, Papakolea, Mililani, Pearl City, as well as our Puna district on Hawaii Island. And so we have a lot of concerns that need to be addressed. It's doable, it's not just practicable. And moving forward, I hope that the commission recognizes that this has, although been a good start, it certainly is far from over as far as the best representation for all communities. And so with that being said, Chair, again, we're looking for answers. We're trying to understand the process. We're trying to understand the honorable behaviors of hopefully and moving forward, we want to see that transparency developed. And we want to provide the community with the best outcomes possible as this decision impacts the lives of all of us for the next decade. Apologies for going over. Mahalo nui, Chair Mugiishi, and Commissioners, office staff, and the public. Thank you guys so much.
Next testifier is Michael Konowitz, followed by Ralph Boye.
Aloha, my name is Michael Konowitz, and I'm testifying in my individual capacity as a full-time resident of Waikoloa Village in Hawaii County. My testimony is my own and not tied to any business, board, or commission I'm part of. To complement written testimony I submitted for the January 26th meeting and today's meeting, I'm here to express concerns on a few points around the Hawaii County State House map. First, the latest commission map continues to split apart my community, severing Waikoloa Village into 2 house districts while disconnecting us from our adjacent beach communities, namely Waikoloa Beach, Maunalani Resort, and Mauna Kea Resort communities. This area shares common concerns with water, wastewater, environment, beach and park access, roads and highways, and other infrastructure requirements like police, fire, and schools to grow with a growing community. It's imperative that our state leaders can holistically tackle the specific needs of our district and understand the unique set of challenges, opportunities, and issues that live right here. Second, there appears to be a fairly significant volume of public testimony about the desire to keep the Waikoloa area whole in the new House district, yet I haven't seen that testimony be reflected in commission discussion or action with modification of the maps. Third, I believe the community Boye plan, which has also received a large amount of public testimony in support of, helps keep Waikoloa whole. As such, I support the Boye plan too. In the January 26th meeting, the commission expressed concern around the urgent timeline to wrap up this process, while also suggesting there wasn't enough time or reason to quote unquote start over and looking at the Hawaii County House map. Because the Boye plan has been in the public eye and subject to scrutiny by both the commission and the public, so much so it's generated a decent amount of favorable testimony, I believe you can move forward with that plan without compromising your timeline or the community interest in it. Even better, it reduces the risk of implementation delays should legal action be pursued if you go with the last technical committee's plan. If for whatever reason the commission opts not to pursue the Boye plan, I ask that the commissioners speak on the record as to why it is the inferior plan and why it shouldn't be used. Lastly, I do want to thank the commission for their efforts to date. You have a large, complex puzzle to solve with limited time to solve it. But I do hope you weigh in my opinions and those of others who have provided written and verbal testimony in recent days and weeks. Mahalo.
Chair, before we continue, I want to acknowledge that Commissioner Chip Chase has joined the meeting. Next testifier is Ralph Boye, followed by Lisa Bishop.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. First, I want to thank the Commission Secretary for accurately recording a Hawaii Advisory Council Chairperson Paval's statement in the minutes for January 26. After 6 unproductive meetings, I'm getting frustrated. I've heard so many people put their time into this and effort and trying to get you folks to understand what we need on the Big Island. I'm sorry, but I guess it's time to take off the gloves. I'm here to urge every one of you to vote no on the technical committee's redistricting plans. There's been more than enough testimony in opposition to those plans. There's been more than enough testimony that's shown that the HRC can do a far better job meeting the criteria of the Constitution. And there's been more than enough testimony in support of the Boye plan. Very few adjustments have been made since the plans came out on January 13th. My written testimony goes into detail addressing the reasons given at your last meeting as to why changes haven't been made. In my opinion, those reasons create a mockery of the Commission's obligation to hear and consider public input. Dismissing the public input because there isn't enough time to modify the plans and stating that we would have to start all over again makes me wonder, why did you hold 6 public hearings, 7 counting today, for input on the plans? I urge the commission to vote no on the technical committee plans, review the boundaries submitted by the public, and adopt the plans that meet the constitutional criteria. This is an important issue. Very important issue. You mentioned the issue of time. You have made the issue of time a problem by not seriously considering public input at the meeting since January 13th. The most expeditious way to get to the 2022 elections moving forward is to accept the changes made by the public. Redraw your maps, schedule a hearing to present the revised maps, then schedule a hearing to approve them. Approving the maps today will lead to further delays. A number of concerned citizens are prepared to file a lawsuit. Given what we have heard in the last 2 weeks, it is very likely that the HRC maps will be overturned by the state Supreme Court. Then you will have to start all over again from that date instead of from today. I believe my written testimony for today gives a good basis for a lawsuit on abuse of your discretionary authority. I believe our plans for putting House districts solely into Senate districts gives a good technical basis for proving violations of your obligation to follow the constitutional criteria. Redistricting is a serious issue. It defines how our communities will be represented for the next 10 years. It likely will set precedents for 2030, I guess it would be redistricting. We take it seriously and we care about our communities. Same. Please vote committee maps.
Next testifier is Lisa Bishop, followed by Sandy Ma.
Good afternoon, Chair Mugi Ishii and members of the Reapportionment Commission. I am Lisa Bishop, a resident of Oahu. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify today. I respectfully request that the concerns of Pearl City, Papakolea, Mililani, and Puna be resolved to the satisfaction of the residents of those areas. I also request that the Oahu Senate districts respect that Makapu Point is the dividing line between Oahu Senate districts 9 and 25. My testimony today further generally addresses the technical committee's continued blatant abuse of discretion in disregarding the Hawaii State Constitution and the wishes of Oahu and Hawaii Island residents to have each state Senate district be comprised of only 2 House districts. There is no substantive reason not to do it. Oahu and Big Island community or people's plans submitted to the commission months ago demonstrate that it is clearly practicable to do so. The technical committee is choosing not to live up to their oath to abide by our state constitution. We residents have demonstrated that we can, and of course, it should be done. Hawaii residents do not expect that the redistricting plans will please everyone. However, we do expect them to comply with the state constitution. Only 4 of the commissioners are part of the permitted interaction group framework that allows the technical committee to deliberate in secret. Those commissioners have therefore been greatly excluded from the secretive process used by the PIG that avoids the use of the Sunshine Law. I hope after hearing all of the public testimony and seeing how the technical committee has disrespected so much of it, that the commissioners will have the courage to vote against the technical committee's proposed plan because it matters to all of us. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify today.
Next up is Sandy Ma, followed by Kapua Maderos.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Reapportionment Commission. My name is Sandy Ma with Common Cause Hawaii. Common Cause urges this commission as a whole to reject the January 26th proposed final district maps. We urge the commission as a whole to reject the January 26th, 2022 proposed final district maps on a few bases. 1, the final maps, proposed final maps, do not take community concerns or testimonies into account. And 2, it still splits communities of interest, most notably Papakolea, a Native Hawaiian homestead community. For these reasons, and amongst others that you've heard being spoken today before you. We urge the Reapportionment Commission to reject the January 26, 2020 proposed final district maps. I'm available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Before we continue, I'd like to note that Commissioner Nishimura has joined the meeting. Next testifier is Kahi Maduro, followed by Richard Beidelman.
Aloha. This is Kapua. Aloha, Chair and Commissioners. I hope you're all having a beautiful and blessed day. I'd like to implore that you please, I'm not sure if you've made a decision. I'm hoping not. I'm going to ask one more time that you please reinstate the border of Makapu'u for our Senate District 25. And I'm going to ask that you please listen to all of the community voices. And in my Mana'o community should be what drives the decisions on every commission and every government office and every government entity. You're hired, or all of you come through the government to work for the people. So I would hope that you all listen to the people. I do want to thank you for working very hard, and I ask that you please finish out this session being the strongest commission there ever was, that stood for the people and made the right choices. I did want to also add that I heard at the last session on the 26th, which was my birthday, I heard Commissioner Nanaka say that it would be too hard to draw out the maps, and that he didn't hear any testimonial in supporting Hicks and Boye's plan. I found that to be a big jaw dropper, as I had come to many meetings where I heard many people say that they would rather have the Boye plan and the Hicks plan. So I don't know where he got that information. And also those maps have already been drawn, so it really shouldn't be hard to copy it onto another map. All right, so thank you very much. You all have a beautiful and blessed day, and enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you for giving me this opportunity once again. Aloha.
Next testifier is Richard Beidelman, followed by Ruth Smith.
Good afternoon. This is Richard Beidelman. This is not the first time I've testified. Rather than expressing a lot of detail here, I'd just like to say that the Boye plan has been carefully crafted, and Ralph has made all the points about the plan, and I just hope that the committee adopts that plan. It's fair to Puna and also to District 1. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify.
Next testifier is Ruth Smith, followed by Bart Dean.
Aloha. Good afternoon to the commissioner and the chair. Really appreciate the opportunity to give input to you, to let you hear further from the constituency that you may not have heard from before. And I really appreciate your openness to taking our suggestion to heart as you decide how to vote. By way of background, I came to Hawaii from Washington, D.C. in 1985. I've lived here 37 years. In 1994, I moved to the Big Island. I'm sorry, I was on the Big Island. I moved to Waikoloa Village when the school opened. I was both a teacher and a school administrator there. So I've lived here for 27 years. I've been very active in the community, including in the help in developing our community development plan for South Kohala. I served on the steering committee for that. And I now serve as chair of the action committee to monitor the community development plan. The proposal to take Waikoloa and split it and split all the way to the coast in the South Kohala area is one that it's not the first time we've heard this. And it's not a good idea. It doesn't serve the village well at all. And the volunteers who work here so hard. In about 10 years ago, the county proposed to take Waikoloa and put it in the North Kona district, taking it out of the South Kohala district. The Waikoloa community successfully persuaded them that was not at all in our best interest and completely left us out of any CDP coverage. We see redistricting happening across the country oftentimes, and I'm not at all saying you're doing this. I'm saying, though, you see that when communities are divided, their impact is diminished. And we sincerely want you to keep Waikoloa as it is, the largest cul-de-sac in the state, and keep us where we're there as one. It's just critical to our well-being. We have major infrastructures areas here. The village has doubled in size since I moved here. And we have a huge shopping center coming in. We have needs at the intersection, and we have needs for a second access road, and that's for a lot of South Kohala. So I really implore you to seriously reconsider. Please don't split us up. It's not in the best interest of the people who live here now, and it's certainly not good for our generation. And doesn't honor the process, the democratic processes that we have followed to come before you today. Thank you so much for your time and your positive consideration of this request. Aloha.
Next up is Bart Dean, followed by Bill Hicks.
Hello, commissioners. Good afternoon. I'm going to repeat some points that I've made in previous testimony, as well as points that have been made by a lot of the other more able people who've been testifying today and previously. Sorry for them being repetitive. Unfortunately, I don't have the cute little learning aids that I used last time. I don't have Ricky Nelson to serenade you, and I don't have the Princess Bride to give you advice. But I think the Princess Bride quote is still very apt. It was cute, but it was also apt. You keep using that word. In my case, I'm saying practicable or practicable, but I don't think it means what you think it means. I have seen it used as though the use of that clause, when applied to a constitutional criterion, renders it into effectively being a suggestion rather than a mandate. The way I read criterion 6, which I think is the one you guys are ignoring the most blatantly, is where practicable, you must draw House districts entirely within the Senate district. Now, I heard the chair, and to his credit, he said, you know, we have all these different criteria, and sometimes they compete against each other and they conflict with each other. So we have to come up with a balanced approach. And that's well said. I tried to say the same thing less eloquently before, but I haven't heard anybody except the possible exception of Grant Chun try to address why it is not practicable to follow the Constitution on that. And I think that obligation falls on you. And I think that's where you're going to be vulnerable in a lawsuit. Now, Commissioner Chun was talking about Maui, and I didn't understand all the references. I think it's probably that nice couple from Waikapu, who I liked by watching the council meetings, that they wanted to be included in, I think, a Central Oahu Senate district. But as I balance things, I don't think being nice to these people because they're charming and stuff balances out the constitutional obligation to follow that criterion. So I am still waiting to hear something other than a generalized statement as to what the rationale is that can justify ignoring that criteria in the Constitution. And I think others are waiting as well. Frankly, I think that the criteria that you folks are using for practicable include agenda items, agendas that
don't see the light of day. There are practical political considerations that you have to weigh. And I respect that. I'm a political person. I think you had to negotiate with the House leadership of both parties and the Senate leadership in order to deliver plans that pissed off the fewest number of lawmakers. And as long as those were separate projects, it was tough to do. But now when they're combined by this criterion 6, it becomes impossible. So I think it's going to fall upon the court to settle it. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Next up is Bill Hicks, followed by Gordon Aoki.
Aloha, Chair. I'm Bill Hicks, Chairman of the Kailua Neighborhood Board. The Oahu maps proposed by the Technical Committee do not comply with Article 4, Section 6 of the Hawaii Constitution, which states, "For practicable, representative districts shall be wholly included within senatorial districts." Only 9 of 34 Oahu House districts comply with this provision. The same non-compliance exists on the Big Island and in Maui County. No compelling justification to deviate from the constitutional requirement has been offered overall, let alone for each of the 25 Oahu instances of infringement. The public deserves to understand what the reasons are should the Commission eventually decide that following the constitutional and HRS criteria is not practicable. An aligned alternative Oahu Senate plan was submitted that demonstrated it is fully practicable to achieve all 34 Oahu House districts in full compliance with all of the constitutional and HRS requirements by simply joining 2 House districts drawn by the Technical Committee to form each Senate district. The aligned Oahu Senate plan also achieves lower total population deviation. The aligned Oahu Senate plan also restores Makapu'u Point as the natural boundary between Senate districts 9 and 25, consistent with the historical practice of not mixing East Honolulu with Windward Oahu that has been respected in all House district, congressional district, and city council district maps. Many people have testified that if it is practicable to adhere to the constitutional criteria, then the constitutional expectation is that it shall be done. This isn't merely an academic exercise or a constitutional anomaly. It has a real bearing on the quality and effectiveness of our representation. If every House district is fully contained within 1 Senate district, then all elected officials would have a better shared understanding of the community's needs for schools, roads, and other infrastructure, enabling them to be more effective at representing their district. Chair, at multiple meetings, I have requested that the Reapportionment Commission's professional staff present a detailed side-by-side comparison of these 2 Senate plans. The purpose of these requests was to ensure that every individual commissioner, as well as the public, has full awareness of the differences between the 2 Senate plans before a vote is taken to potentially approve a Technical Committee plan that is not in accordance with the Constitution. Unfortunately, that side-by-side comparison has not happened. I nonetheless urge each commissioner to reject the Technical Committee's proposed Oahu Senate plan on the basis that it does not comply with the Constitution. The public has placed its sacred trust in this commission to represent the public interest. Commissioners, it truly saddens me to say this, but we are now on a collision course where it is likely that the Hawaii Supreme Court will be asked for its opinion on the constitutionality of your technical committee is proposing. Hopefully, a quick opinion will be rendered. Please support stronger community representation and adherence with the constitutional criteria that House districts are to be fully contained within 1 Senate district. Mahalo.
Next up is Gordon Aoki, followed by homilani Shaito.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Reapportionment Commission. I'm Gordon Aoki, a resident of Oahu and living in Manoa. I submitted written and oral testimony previously to the Commission. Thank you again for the opportunity to address the Commission, and I thank you for your service. It appears that the Commission is intent upon adopting its final redistricting plan posted for the January 26th meeting. It is disappointing that the Commission has chosen to ignore the preponderance of public testimony offered by widespread and grassroots voices. At the last meeting, the chair cautioned the public that it needed to distinguish the forest from the trees. It's necessary to finalize the legislative district so elections can be held in November 2022. With all due respect, I believe the communities and the large number of individuals who have testified are very much concerned about the forest. Concerns and recommendations have been made to you about how we are represented, not who represents us. People have advocated that the forest is self-determined by shared community identity, a sense of place and common purpose. The community found common cause in the state constitution that provided guidance and criteria for compact contiguous communities, natural and easily recognized features as boundaries, districts that unduly favor a person or political faction, avoiding submergence of a different socioeconomic interest, and containing house districts wholly within Senate districts. The trees are only representative of the forest, and they will come and go with time, depending on how they protect, prove, and advance the forest. We believe that doing this right and correcting the problem of past reapportionments is what the 10-year census is all about and what the reapportion must address. It is disheartening to experience the very low regard the commission has had for public participation. The commission has assented with their silence to allow a member to denigrate and diminish neighborhood advisory boards representing their communities, to assert that only the opposition submits testimony at public meetings, and your private back channel communications have more credence than the many people who testify. It is incomprehensible to me that advocating for the rule of law, equality, and justice can in any way be construed the opposition. The commission asserts now that time is of the essence and changes must be published before they do anything more. The commission has the responsibility for its schedule and overlooks that both the Hicks and Boye plan have had extensive community outreach, publication, engagement, interactive responses in the community, more so. Thank you.
Next up is homilani Scheidel, followed by Deborah Ward.
Aloha Chair Mugiishi and members of the commission. I'm homilani Scheidel, president of Malua High Residents Association, the first homestead in Kapolei established in 2001, located in House District 42. Mahalo for the opportunity to share my mana'o with you today. I'm especially grateful to Commissioners Nonaka and Ono for their interest and addressing my testimony on Wednesday, and also to other testifiers for sharing their mana'o and educating me during this process, for this is an arena I have been unfamiliar with. Having heard the term practicable several times, I looked at Article 4, Section 6.8, which states, where practicable, submergence of an area in a larger district wherein substantially different socio-economic interests predominate shall be avoided. As stated before, our residents are concerned that the issues we face as beneficiaries will be dominated by other residents' issues if placed in District 43. And the operative word here are shall be avoided, not may be avoided. Examples of our beneficiaries' issues are changes on how the governor makes nominations to fill vacancies on the Hawaiian Homes Commission, relating to independent counsel. Another example would also be relating to tax exemption, same as HHFDC that exempts the Department of Hawaiian Homelands from when developing homestead from general excise tax. It also about adoption of successors to a lessee. These are issues that I'm talking about that would be different than those who are in District 43. In reference to Commissioner Rosenbach's comments, I offer the following for your consideration. Hali Moana Kupuna, located at 1020 Waikea Street with 154 occupied units, and Hali Moana Ohana, located at 1055 Alohikea Street with 143 occupied units, are both in District 43. Yet when I checked the FFIEC geocoder, neither of these two affordable projects had census tract data for 2020, 2021, and 2022. Combined, both projects have a total of 297 units with a minimum estimate population of 594 or more. My findings give me reason to pause and ask units included for the population calculation in the 113 and 126 maps. If not, will you consider inclusion of this information? Mahalo.
Next up is Deborah Ward, followed by Roberto Mayer.
Aloha, Commissioners. My name is Deborah Ward. I'm very much involved in our community, and having chaired Sierra Club for the island and representing the Puna District for the County of Hawaii Public Access and Open Space and Natural Resources Commission, I live and farm in Upper Puna. The Hawaii Island House redistricting map proposed by the Technical Committee fails to meet the criteria set out in the Constitution. The community has spoken and you have failed to listen. So please vote no on the Technical Committee map. Many groups on our island have reviewed and worked on the Boye V2 map, and we find this map highly preferable. Why? In the tech map, the districts are not compact. Proposed District 5, which would be my district, is 104 miles from one end to the other, larger than all the other islands combined. A representative would need to drive 4 hours round trip to cover the district, not counting the meeting time for constituents. The House districts are not within the Senate districts, and the socioeconomic disparate communities are combined in a strange way. The deviation rate is higher than the appropriate alternatives, and the community map proposed as the Boye map has input and approval from large groups within our communities. It is practicable, it is aligned with the Constitution, and you have ignored considerable and passionate community input to date. I am so strongly opposed to the Technical Committee map that I am sure there will be a legal challenge, and I am prepared to join it. Please reconsider the poorly conceived map that you are prepared to vote on as final. It needs to be reviewed again. Thank you.
Next up is Roberto Mayer, followed by Ariel Murphy.
Aloha, Commissioners. My name is Roberta Mayer, and I represent the Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board and Hawaii Kai community. I'm here to formally communicate my disappointment with the final Senate district maps being considered by the technical group and commission. It is important to our community to reestablish Makapu'u Point as the natural geographic boundary between Senate districts 9 and 25. With the opportunity to easily combine 2 House districts into each Senate district, I cannot understand why the technical group has not chosen to do so. And I have not heard any reasonable justification for not doing so. If the House districts have been developed with reasonable boundaries and minimal population deviation, why wouldn't the same be true when 2 House districts are combined to form each Senate district? Please reconsider the Senate district maps so that they can be aligned to the House district maps. Thank you very much for considering.
Next up is Ariel Murphy, followed by J.D. Domizio.
Aloha. Good afternoon, my kako. I'm Ariel Murphy from the Puna District of the Big Island. In written and oral testimonies that I had submitted, I had repeatedly asked that portions of Puna not be mixed with Hilo. I have also requested that Puna be granted 2 House districts Puna's population based on the 2020 census more than justifies it. And it is doable and practicable as evident from the Boye map. In the commission's previous meeting last Wednesday, I was disheartened by statements I heard from Commissioner Nonaka. When asked why the technical committee maps were not revised based on public input, Commissioner Nonaka basically had two reasons. Reason one, he said public testimony were merely oppositional to the technical committee's maps. And reason number two, that there was no time to make changes. Okay, even if we ignore public testimonies, the technical committee certainly had plenty of time to make changes. When did the technical committee first put up the maps on its website? And how many public testimonies have we had since then? Also, and more important, aren't the requirements of our Constitution enough impetus for the technical committee to revise their plans? Is the technical committee overseen by Commissioner Nonaka in effect saying that the Constitution is not important at all? I hope that the commissioners understand that this is not just a matter of moving lines and boundaries. By the maps you make, you affect our lives. You affect the quality of how we are represented and how our needs are met. Commissioner Nonaka's maps do not meet our needs for better representation at all. The Boye map for the Big Island does. And from what I've heard and seen, the Bill Hicks map for Oahu also does. Please vote no to Commissioner Nonaka's maps for the Big Island and for Oahu. Mahalo.
Next up is JD Domizio, followed by Brett Colbis.
Aloha, Chair and Hawaii Redistricting Committee members. I'm here to express my disappointment with the technical committee's redistricting maps. They do not match up with the Constitution and really seem to ignore the strong community input. I'm a current Hawaii Island voter, born and raised in Kalapana, currently live in the Mountain View area, and I've seen it throughout my entire life how neglected due to lack of representation our Puna community has been. I completely support the Boye community plan for the state house districts of the island of Hawaii. With four Senate seats and 8 House seats, it makes perfectly good sense to place 2 House seats and a Senate seat. It's been years where Keao and Puna subdivisions like Orchid Land, Hawaiian Acres, HVPs have been combined with Hilo in 1 House district. That's over just the last 10 years. And despite the voices being said and all the lack of support, those voices have not been heard. Just that the 2020 census alone showing that the KL Mountain View area has grown like 20.3% from 2010 to 2020. It just shows when each house district is supposed to be at about 25,000. We definitely qualify in Puna for the 2 House seats. So combining it with Hilo definitely doesn't make sense population-wise, and it really does have a massive effect on the Puna community members. It's just disappointing to see that all these voices, all these testimonies are not being heard. As someone who is from Puna, this is kind of the same old thing, it seems like, and I just wanted to express my support for the Boye community. Thank you.
Next up is Brett Colbis, followed by Shannon Matson.
Good afternoon, Commissioner, Chair Mugishu, the rest of the commissioners. I just want to thank you for all that you have done over the last couple of months. I know it's been hard. It's a thankless job that you guys are doing, just by all the testimony that I've heard over all the meetings. but I want to thank you for everything you do. I will not interject that I know anything about what's happening on the Big Island, but I will say, as far as Oahu goes, I do not think there is a preponderance of a majority of the members, communities on Oahu being represented by some of the testimony that I've heard. There's myself and another individual and the woman today were the only ones that I know that have testified from the west side. I didn't see anybody testifying from the North Shore area or downtown area other than Manoa. So the vast majority, I think, of the residents are not as concerned about how this turns out. They just want to get it done. So, but I thank you all for doing what you do, and I don't envy you with the decisions that you have to make on this. And I would also like to, I was kind of taken aback at the attacks on some of the commissioners in general. I don't believe that you took this position under nefarious reasons, and that your hearts are all in the right place, trying to do what's best for the island, that the state as a whole. And I would never impugn on your character or integrity. Mahalo.
Next up is Shannon Matson, followed by Becky Gardner.
Aloha, commissioners. Aloha, staff. I hope you can hear me all right.
Yes.
Thank you. Mahalo. This is Shannon Matson here from the Big Island. Going to be a bit repetitive today, so please forgive me. Last meeting, one of the commissioners mentioned something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, do we really want to start all over again and draw new maps? And my response to that is yes. Yes, we do. And luckily, we don't have to, because there are some wonderful maps that have already been drawn by Ralph Boye is one of the ones that I love on the Big Island. There's two other options on the Big Island that I think are both much improved from the tech committee's maps. And then the Bill Hicks and the Will Karen plan for Oahu both make a lot more sense to me, even though I'm not an Oahu resident. And I just want to remind you, redrawing maps now, today, tomorrow, within the next couple of days would save extensive time and taxpayer money down the road to any legal challenges that will certainly arise. Go into executive session now if you must and ask your attorney which one of those options is more advisable. Rejecting maps that follow the criteria in a better way and now in favor of your poorly drawn and unconstitutional maps is not advisable. These alternative maps were posted 2 days before your original January 13 maps were posted that are now considered those final maps that you might be voting on today. The community and public had a chance to review them. The tech committee had a chance to review them and incorporate some or all of those changes into their maps and repeatedly chose not to. This is not a valid argument. I've pointed out numerous small changes that could easily be made that would not even affect population deviations, but would improve road connectivity, and those were also not addressed. I still have not received a response as to why that is, even though you went into executive session last meeting to address a larger issue that was apparently too complicated to make any sort of correction on. The issues I have pointed out have zero complications. They can be made. They could have been made weeks ago. They could definitely be made today. I don't understand what the holdup is. My understanding is there's one commissioner on your tech committee that is from Hawaii Island, and mentioned last time that there's extensive opposition testimony, and that's just focused on those who are unhappy, and that they're primarily from one part of our island. And that means that everybody else on the entire island is in favor of these maps. That's false. This commissioner also spoke repeatedly about their own personal involvement on various committee and community different groups to show their own credibility. But does this one person from one part of the island really think that they know better than all of these people who are testifying, all of us who are testifying are from various parts of the island. We're all upstanding members of our community. We're all community leaders. I know my time's up, so I just want to say thank you again for all the work you're doing. I really hope you listen today, and please do not vote to approve these maps. Mahalo.
Next up is Becky Gardner.
Aloha, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm a little bit sad. This might be the last time I see all of you in this format. I first just want to comment on the timeline and just make sure that each and every one of you are aware that if you vote yes to the proposed maps, you're guaranteeing a legal challenge. It's going to happen. And Article 4, Section 10 of the Hawaii Constitution gives any registered voter 45 days from the filing of your maps to file a lawsuit in the Hawaii Supreme Court. So if you hop to it today, that would take us up to March 14th when someone could file a lawsuit. When the Solomon suit was filed, the Supreme Court took about 2 months to render a decision. So based on that timeline, that would take us close to May and June. Imagine the circumstances and the conditions that puts every single candidate for a state office in this state. And I know you understand that because I've been hearing a lot about you're worried about the timeline and you're pushing, to get this done. But it's pretty clear that the community knows what they want and they follow the Constitution and they've done everything you asked. In the beginning, you said, please submit your own maps. We want to know what you think. We need your insights. You're on the ground. Submit a map, submit a map, submit a map. And they did. Not only did they submit maps, but they submitted amazing maps. They took care of each and every single constitutional requirement and statutory requirement, far beyond what I've seen coming out of this commission. They're superior. So, in a sense, I feel like when we ask you to adopt these maps, your response are just these vacuous, inaccurate statements that don't speak any details. And it's kind of like the community is saying, look, we have a cure for cancer. We got a cure for cancer. And your response is, yes, cancer is a terrible disease. There's this mismatch, right? So I just ask you, please, you have an opportunity today to vote against these maps and assure that rule of law wins the day. Because if we start chipping away at our Constitution, we've seen what's happened on the mainland. We've seen this erosion of our democracy. We can't let that happen here in Hawaii. We can't let that happen to our Constitution. You guys know better. We've been telling you. That's it. I don't want to hear the buzzer. I'm gone. Aloha.
Chair, there are no further testifiers.
Thank you, everybody, for providing your testimony. We'll move on now to the next agenda item. Agenda item 4, reports by the Apportionment Advisory Councils. We have invited each advisory council, Hawaii, Maui, Kauai, and Oahu, to provide feedback on matters affecting redistricting for each basic island unit. We have planned to allow each advisory council to present at our commission meetings. Would any advisory council like to present? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to the next agenda item 5, approval of the minutes for the meeting of January 26, 2022. Including in the meeting packet are the minutes for the January 26, 2022 meeting. Any discussion on those minutes? If there's no discussion, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Nakota, second by Commissioner Nishimura. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, Scott, Mr. Secretary, would you please take a vote?
Commissioner Chip Chase?
Aye.
Commissioner Chun?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Nakota?
Aye.
Commissioner Nishimura,
Aye.
Commissioner Naka,
Aye.
Commissioner Ono,
Aye.
Commissioner Rathbun. Excused. Chair Mugiishi,
Aye.
Commissioner Rathbun.
Aye.
Chair, motion carries.
Thank you. We'll continue to the next agenda item 6, discussion and action on the modified proposed final legislative and congressional reapportionment and redistricting plans recommended by the Technical Committee Permitted Interaction Group. Commissioners, we do have a presentation first before discussion from the Reapportionment Project Office. So David, if you can move forward with your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the commission and the public. Before we show the maps, we'd just like to tell you how we got to this point. In a summary of reapportionment project delays and accomplishments. Census apportionment data is usually received in March, April of the reapportionment year. This cycle, we received the data on August 12th, 2021. The Technical Permitted Interaction Group's congressional plan was presented on September 9th, 2021. The first Technical Permitted Interaction Group's legislative plan was presented on October 14th, 2021. The second Technical Permitted Interaction Group's legislative plan was presented on December 22nd, 2021. And the third Technical Permitted Interaction Group's legislative plan was presented on January 13th, 2022. The first and the second plans were impacted by an insufficient non-permanent resident extraction base provided by DMDC. We got that, that data drop June 2nd of 2020. The third plan was the result of a correct non-permanent resident population extraction base provided by DMDC, provided on December 31st, 2021. The public had access to the redistricting software and database at the same time as the Technical Permitted Interaction Group throughout the process. There were 11 meetings of the commission, 13 advisory council meetings, and 11 public hearings from September 9th, 2021 through January 26th, 2022. I think now's the time we move to showing you the maps. So I'll turn it over to Royce.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay. Basically, these are, there haven't been changes in the last 2 days since we presented these before. Congressional plan is still there and it's online, both PDF and interactive. The various legislative plans have not been changed in the last 2 days. They've also been available online as PDFs and interactive maps. There is one change, and we mentioned this at the previous meeting, that there was an administrative change to change the district number. So this is not something the commission's responsible for, but it's something the Office of Elections, for election purposes, administrative purposes, wanted to change these numbers. And so you can see here in this graphic how they were changed. Again, the district boundaries did not change, only the numbers of the districts changed. And then the Senate staggered terms, that's actually a separate agenda item. And I do have more slides to explain in more detail than I provided 2 days ago, but I think I should probably stop here since that completes the proposed plans for this agenda item.
Thank you. Commissioners, is there any discussion on the presentation by staff? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to adopt the proposed final legislative and congressional reapportionment and redistricting plans recommended by the Technical Committee Permitted Interaction Group on January 26, 2022?
Chair, I'll make a motion to do.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Nakota and a second by Commissioner Ono. Any further discussion?
I guess I have a question. So we're voting on the entirety of the proposed maps where we won't be separating House by island, Senate. It's just all or nothing. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's what the motion is for. It's for the presentation that was just made on the technical committee's maps.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Chair, this is Commissioner Chip Chase. I'll speak briefly to the motion. I do support the motion, and I support that the maps as revised that have come to us from the technical committee and that have been reviewed most recently in our meetings, they follow a long iteration of taking into account the best available data that we've received, and that has changed, and it's changed the way that we approach the mapping and the maps that we produced, and have been responsive to community concerns and questions where practicable. And if you look back to where we begin, Chair, or where we began, the maps have changed quite a bit from where we started this journey. And I believe that those iterations have been appropriate and have been responsive, as I say, to the data and to the comments that we've received. Having looked at the maps and having considered the community's comments over these many weeks, I am satisfied that the technical committee and that this commission has considered all of the constitutional criteria as practicable rather than favoring any one or ignoring any condition. And so I do support the maps and I do support the work that this commission has done. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioner Chip Chase. Anything else from the other commissioners?
Commissioner Chan has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Chun.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, before we vote, I'd just like to say that I have nothing but appreciation and admiration for my fellow commissioners and the work that's been conducted with such diligence and regard for our communities all across the state. Particularly for those of you who have served on the technical committee, it's been amazing to observe the extent of the consideration and thought you have all put into producing the maps that are before the commission. And your leadership through this process, Mr. Chair, has been inspirational. You know, as someone who spends my whole life in meetings, I really have great appreciation for your leadership and your skills. This process has been educational for me in terms of the reapportionment in two regards. First, in arriving at an understanding that our Constitution provides for standards and criteria pertaining to extraction that are not necessarily in sync with data that is maintained by either the military or the US Census Bureau. Secondly, arriving at an understanding as well as to the guidelines that are set forth in the Constitution pertaining to redistricting. The Constitution states that in effecting such redistricting, the commission shall be guided by the following criteria. It sets forth guidance rather than inflexible standards so as to ensure reasonableness and fairness are always a part of the equation in arriving at redistricting determinations. I have observed complete objectivity and clear commitment to ensuring that good decisions were made in the context of these guidelines and as they were applied to the redistricting maps. So I will be pleased today to support the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Chan. Any other commissioners?
I'm so sorry to do this, but I also appreciate everything that everybody has done. And I am sorry that I am not a politician and I have no relationship to have, come to this table with all of this understanding. So I have been doing my due diligence to try to understand. So at this point, I don't understand why we are doing it in its entirety. Is there a way to amend the motion and go island by island, or is this just the way that it's done? I'm so sorry. I tried to ask prior to this meeting. I mean, I am in support of some, but I am against others. So I feel like, again, the community voice has been heard over and over. We've all heard it, and I appreciate what everybody's done, and I've looked at all of it, but do we have options? And maybe that's for Lori. Can we amend the motion? Can we make a motion to accept Boye and Hicks maps? Again, I'm so sorry to throw all this out, but I understand it was an impossible situation, but there are so many community voices not supporting it. So I guess that's a lot of questions all at once. One, can we separate the islands or can we not? And then two, I mean, this is it, right? I mean, I feel like the community still doesn't have the answers that they need. So what are our options at this moment?
Yeah, since our elections are statewide, we don't have elections at separate dates, island by island. I don't believe we can separate the approval process on an island by island basis. It wouldn't make sense to have an election on Kauai, but not on Oahu or whatever, because we're still drawing maps. And just a little bit of a recollection of the timelines that we do have. I know timelines shouldn't be anything, but if we're satisfied in our own minds that the technical interaction group followed the Constitution, which I can just speak for myself and say I am satisfied that they did, then we are blocked by a timeline that says on March 1st, candidates have to file. And before they can file, all of the voters have to be placed in the appropriate district, which Office of Elections has told us in the past has taken at least a month. That's today. By June 29th, all ballots have to be mailed to overseas voters. So, not only do we have to have people, running for office, we have to actually get ballots out to people. And then we have a primary election on August 13th. And then the general election in November. So, I guess, I know my words were paraphrased today about the forest for the trees. I do believe the principle of the democratic process is a fair and well-run election. And that's what, as chair, I've been trying to make sure that we get to and that we never forget that that's what we're trying to do. And I think in order for us to ensure that we're not responsible for not having a fair and well-run election, we have to either approve or not approve this entire package as is today. Otherwise, because the election has to happen all together. I hope that answers your question.
It does. I appreciate that. Thank you. So are we voting as we are discussing, or you're going to take a vote?
No, we're definitely going to take a vote, but we're still having a discussion on the current motion, which is to accept the proposal. Commissioner Nishimura, I see you have your hand up as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to echo the comments made by Commissioners Chan and Chip Chase. I think they have narrowed the considerations for the motion and articulated them very well. In addition to that, I would like to point out to everyone that we on Kauai have been fortunate that we are probably one of the few that meet all of the criteria of the Constitution, whether it be a guideline or a dictate. That being said, I do believe that, and I am convinced that the technical group has taken the information that has been given to them and have given it due consideration to the extent that they are able to, and have come up with maps that, at least for me, are acceptable. there are several arguments that could be made for and against all kind of lawsuits and all that. I think at the end of the day, all of us in the commission and in the public would dearly love to avoid that. That being said, I do also know that there are disagreements as to the form of the plan. However, I would agree that the large majority of the people have not objected to the plans, and therefore, I feel fairly confident that, we have done the best job we can possibly do under the circumstances and given the information we have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Nishimura. Any other commissioner? I know I just want to make kind of an overarching statement. Number one, it's been an honor and a pleasure for me to serve as chair of this commission. This is brand new for me as well. I run a health company, which is very different than something like this. But one thing I will say that, because we all live in the US and we watch what's happening elsewhere, where there's all kinds of discord and divisiveness, and people are suing over the fundamental right to be represented. And I think I just want to create a little bit of a distinction between what's happening there and what's happening here. Like a lot of places where that's happening, the majority party of the state legislature is allowed to draw the new maps, and they, without doubt, are trying to disadvantage the opposite party. And that is definitely causing problems with a representation of an entire group of people. That's not happening here in Hawaii. I think, we have 8 commissioners, 4 of whom are Republican and 4 of whom are Democrat. But you know what? All 8 of whom I've had the privilege to get to know and find out that they all love Hawaii and they care about Hawaii. They are here in Hawaii and they care about the people of Hawaii. So as they are looking at what's happening, they are not here to push a single agenda. They're here to make sure that we are paying attention to the Constitution, to the people, and then to having a fair and well-run election over the next 10 years. So I just want to thank all the commissioners for giving me total faith in the people in Hawaii who choose to serve on commissions like this. And I appreciate everything. So thank you. And with that, if there is no further discussion, I'm going to call for a vote. So again, just to reiterate, a motion was made by Commissioner Nakota and seconded by Commissioner Ono. I'll read it again. The motion is to adopt the proposed final legislative and congressional reapportionment and redistricting plans recommended by the Technical Committee Permitted Interaction Group on January 26, 2022. Mr. Secretary, can you please take the vote?
Commissioner Chipchase.
Aye.
Commissioner Chun.
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy.
No.
Commissioner Nakota.
Aye.
Commissioner Nishimura.
Aye.
Commissioner Nonaka.
Aye.
Commissioner Ono.
Aye.
Commissioner Rathbun.
Aye.
Chair Muguishi.
Aye.
Chair, the motion carries 8-1.
Mahalo. Let's see. So we have this plan now, and what has to happen is at some point the office staff has to submit a report to the state legislature. So what I'm going to ask for now is whether or not there is a motion to allow the Reapportionment Project Office to make technical and non-substantive changes to the final legislative and congressional reapportionment redistricting plans when they submit it to the legislature. And before making that motion and discussing it, I'll say that if we as a commission want to add to that report recommendations to the legislature for future suggestions that we have, then that would not be non-substantive, and we would need to reconvene in a public commission meeting to discuss in order to make those recommendations. So I'm going to ask if there are commissioners who would like to would like to consider having a separate meeting like that in order to do it before we have this.
Chair, would
Kennedy.
you repeat the second portion of what you were saying about any changes?
Right, so, there's going to be format changes, not technical, non-substantive changes that just get made when you make a report. So we can delegate that to the Office of Elections or to the Reapportionment Office without actually reconvening into a meeting. If we as a commission, however, want to do anything substantive, for example, make recommendations to the legislature about how this should be run in the future or suggestions like that, and include that in the report, that would have to be something substantive that was coming from this commission. We would need to have another commission meeting, put it on the agenda, discuss and vote and decide what we're going to put on there.
But that could be separate items. Is that correct?
We would have to have a separate meeting and have a separate item, yes.
The reason I asked that question is, for the report itself, I think timing may be of the essence for the Office of Elections. And I would not want to impede that process, but perhaps having a separate meeting for recommendations may be something for the commission to decide.
Thank you, Commissioner Nishimura. Commissioner Kennedy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I absolutely vote in favor of that because I feel like the process is what's caused the dissension between the community and the permitted interaction group. And personally, I am in no better position than the community is. I only get to see what everybody gets to see at the same time. So I feel like the process, especially the census and the military extraction, not communicating, there's so much to the process that I feel like all of us that have spent all this time together have a lot to say about that. And if we could accumulate our recommendations together to help the future people 10 years from now, I think that would be a huge blessing. So I vote yes for that, for sure. And I think Scott can tell us, we have until the 27th of February or something before it affects anything, right, Scott?
Well, so just to make a distinction, so what we're talking about is a report to the legislature. So the maps we just voted on and we approved by a vote.
It's not going to change it.
So that those maps are going forward and Scott can start working on that immediately. The office will put together those maps plus whatever else we want to include in our formal report from the commission. And we have a specific timeline for that, which is longer than what Scott needs. And if we want to put those recommendations in, we can call another commission meeting and discuss those and put those in if that's the will of the group. And that's what I'm asking, I guess.
Great.
Yeah. I've heard a couple of commissioners speak in favor of having such a meeting. And if others feel also similar, we actually don't even need to act. I'll just call a meeting at some point and put that on an agenda so we can have that discussion.
I agree, Chair.
Yeah, I also agree.
I do too.
Okay, great. Thank you. So
I
we'll
agree, Chair.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and check everyone's calendar and try and schedule something that works for everyone so we can do that. So we're going to hold on the motion to we should allow them to do this, but actually, no. I was going to ask for a motion to allow the staff to make these technical or non-substantive changes. We can do that later for the report, when we decide if we're going to put any recommendations in and do it all at once at a subsequent meeting. So
Sure, I think we got to clarify with the staff. They may need that motion so they can finalize the districts to get the voters reassigned.
Okay, staff, do you need a motion for that for the report, or are you good with the technical maps being approved?
I believe we're good with the technical maps being approved, but I'll defer to Project Manager Rosenbrock.
Well, the types of changes that we're considering or would be considering are really things that we may find for the next 10 years. They're very small. They take care of pockets where when we overlay council districts on top of legislative districts for the state, that sometimes leaves people out of a district that they should be in. So the types of changes that we were considering, I was just going to look up what we used last time, but it's really very small.
And sometimes, David, my understanding is like if there may be like a census block with no people in it that has a stream that is a delineating line, and you want the ability to be able to move that census block into the other district, so you can use the stream as the legal description separating the two districts, correct?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And the any other pocket that we would move would be, you know, less than 200 people, and not move the deviation more than over 4.9%.
Okay, got it. So you need this latitude just for the maps, not for the report.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. So hearing that explanation, commissioners, is there a motion to allow the reapportionment project office to make technical but non-substantive changes to the final legislative and congressional reapportionment and redistricting plans and maps?
Second.
Okay, so that was a motion by Commissioner Ono and I think a second by Commissioner Rathbun. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on that?
And I think it's important to put on the record and reinstate what David just said, less than 200 people and would not increase the deviation over 4.9% overall.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification, Commissioner Naka. Any further discussion? If not, Mr. Secretary, can you please take a vote?
Commissioner Chipchase,
Aye.
Commissioner Chun,
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Aye.
Commissioner Kota,
Aye.
Commissioner Nishimura,
Aye.
Commissioner Nonaka,
Aye.
Commissioner Ono,
Aye.
Commissioner Rathbun,
Aye.
Chair Muguishi.
Aye.
Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move on now to the next agenda item 7, discussion on action on the Senate staggered terms based on the final legislative and congressional reapportionment and redistricting plans. So based on the final legislative reapportionment and redistricting plan, is there a motion to adopt the staggered Senate terms as presented by the Reapportionment Project Office at the January 26, 2022 meeting? And before we go to that motion, I don't know if everybody wants to see Royce, if you want to pull up your slide again, just so everyone can see it, just to make sure we know what we're reading.
This is the slide, and I added a bit of explanatory text at our previous meeting. I said a lot of words. I've added some graphics now to help explain how we calculated this. Where did these numbers, how did we come up with these numbers? So again, referring back to section 8, right? This is the text about Senate staggered terms, and looking at it in pieces. The first piece is assign 2-year terms for 12 Senate seats. So we need to find 12 Senate seats that will get 2-year terms for the election immediately following the adoption of the plan. So that's the 2022 election. So we need to identify 12 districts that in the 2022 election, their senators who normally get 4-year terms will only get 2-year terms. And that's where it's staggered with the other ones who get 4. Looking further at the text, this is based on the resident population of each Senate district. So these are the now adopted Senate districts. But some of them have people who had been in different Senate districts before, because we've done redistricting. And that's what the numbers are looking at here, is actually the people within that current Senate district who had an election in 2020, a regular Senate election in 2020. And so that's where you can see the top 12, they did not, right? I mean, the highest was, I think, District 19, 25% of now District 19 residents were in a Senate district that did have a 2020 election. So then what do we do with that? We assign for a 6-year period, there should only be then 2 regular Senate elections. So if we look here, these 12 that get the 2 years, they did not have one in 2020. That's what the low numbers mean. They had a low percentage of their residents who had a regular Senate election. Therefore, they will have Senate elections in 2022 and 2024. So that is the 6-year period. And then on the other side, then these folks, and you can see some of them are 100%, 99, 98%. I think the lowest was 79.5%. Most of the residents in this district did have a regular Senate election in 2020. So their 2022 election will be for a 4-year term. And there will not be a Senate election in 2024. So that's what this means, Senate staggered terms. And these are the numbers that we've come up with. Again, just looking purely at those resident numbers and where they had regular elections in 2020. And I think that's it. Any questions on that?
You got this data from elections, right?
This data is actually, it's the data we use for redistricting and reapportionment.
Okay.
Right, and then the elections, yes. Whether or not they had an election, right, that's part of the record that Office of Election maintains. Yep. Anything else?
Yeah, Rice.
Okay, would you like me to keep this up here for the vote or pull it down?
Commissioner Rathbun has a question, I think.
Yeah, Rice, I'd like to see the Oahu map, please. Can you put that up there?
The Oahu map, hang on. The Oahu map. Yes, Senate, House, Senate map.
Senate. The Senate, actually.
Yeah, this is the one we're talking about. I can't show you really both at the same time too easily. Because they're two
Can you
different
make it a
screens.
little bigger, please? Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I hadn't had a chance to look at if we got all done with the numbering. I'm okay.
Is that good?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners?
I have a quick question. So should this go to court and things be changed on the map, is this going to be changed as well? And then if that happens, the commission come back together and we revote, or, I mean, because does this get affected if the Supreme Court rules in favor of changing things up? Does this go away as well? Or change?
You know, I mean, I guess I could answer, yeah, because it's based exactly on the redistricting that's done. So if the court says you have to go back and redistrict, then obviously Senate districts, that would obviously impact this. But this is based on the currently adopted districts that you just adopted.
Okay, thank you, Royce.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Otherwise, Royce, you can go ahead and take it down, I think, at this point, if everyone had their questions. And again, I'm asking if any of the commissioners would like to make a motion to adopt the staggered Senate terms as presented by the Reapportionment Project Office at the January 26, 2022 meeting, which is what you just saw.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Kennedy, second by Commissioner Rathbun. Any further discussion? Scott, can you please take a vote?
Commissioner Chipchase?
Aye.
Commissioner Chun?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Nakota?
Aye.
Commissioner Nishimura?
Aye.
Commissioner Nonaka?
Aye.
Commissioner Ono?
Aye.
Commissioner Rathbun?
Aye.
Chair Muguishi?
Aye.
Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you. Scott, I'm going to ask you to please take off your Secretary of the Commission hat now. Put on your Chief Election Officer hat. The commission wants to ask you, do we need to take any further action for you to execute the final plan as you get ready for the next election?
No, so the vote signifies the transferring or filing of the plan with the chief election officer. And then we'll take it from there. We'll do the publishing within 14 days. And that's it.
Okay, so great. We're gonna count on having a really good, fair, well-run election when we get to our primary on August 13th. So thank you, Scott. Thank you to you and your staff for all the good work you guys have done. Again, I've said this over and over again. You guys have been terrific. So thank you.
Thank you.
So now we move on to our final agenda item. And again, I will look for a time where we can convene again to discuss recommendations for the next commission. But for today, we thank everyone for participating in this meeting. We thank all the commissioners, all the elections office staff, all the reapportionment staff for all the good work done throughout our time together. And if there is no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Nakota and second by Commissioner Nishimura. Any further discussion? If not, Scott, go ahead and please take the vote. You have your secretary hat on now.
Commissioner Chip Chase.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone. Aye.
Commissioner Chun.
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Yes, and thank you so much, but yes, aye.
Commissioner Nakota.
Aye.
Commissioner Nishimura.
Aye.
Commissioner Nonaka.
Aye.
Commissioner Ono.
Aye.
Commissioner Rathbun.
Aye.
Chair Muguishi.
Aye.
Chair, the motion carries.
Mahalo, everyone. Take care.